Mitosis is part of the cell cycle in which the nucleus divides. This is the process of starting with one cell and producing two completely identical daughter cells. The parent cell that we begin with is identical to the daughter cells. That's another way of saying the new cells produced. And this entire process makes somatic or body cells. So for example, skin cells, any cell that isn't considered a sex cell. Body cells are what we call diploid. This means it has the full set of chromosomes in an organism. Diploid is represented by 2N. N would represent haploid. So in this diagram here, we begin with a diploid or 2N parent cell, and after undergoing mitosis, we get two diploid daughter cells which are completely identical to the parent cell. Mitosis happens in 4 steps. At the beginning of the cell cycle, the cell is in what we call interphase. In interphase, this is when the DNA is uncoiled in the nucleus. This is also when DNA is copied in the S phase of interphase, the synthesis. So DNA replication occurs here. So before mitosis begins, there's already 2 copies of the DNA from the S phase and interphase. The first step of mitosis is prophase. This is when the cell prepares to divide. DNA winds into chromosomes, which basically looks like an X. Now, a chromosome is composed of multiple parts. Each part of the X is what we call a chromatid, and they're joined together in the middle by what we call a centromere. Both chromatids together make up the chromosome. Each chromatid is completely identical, so they each contain exactly the same information, which came from the S phase of interphase. In prophase, the nuclear membrane begins to break down, represented by the dashed line, and spindle fibers appear from the centrioles, which is represented by the red diagram, or the red pictures, and those little dots are the spindle fibers actually beginning to form out of the centrioles. The second phase is metaphase. This is when all the chromosomes align in the middle of the cell. We also know that as call that the equator of the cell. And chromosomes attach to the spindle fibers at the centromere. Remember, the centromere is the middle of the chromosome. The third phase is anaphase. This is when sister chromatids are pulled away or apart towards opposite ends of the cell. So chromosomes are pulled apart as the spindle fibers begin to shorten. So it's pretty much breaking the X into its 2 chromatids. The fourth step is telophase. This is the formation of 2 nuclei. So the cell membrane begins to pinch in, the nuclei reforms around your chromatids, and the DNA starts to unwind and become uncoiled, just like it was in interphase. The last part of the cell cycle is cytokinesis. This is when the cell cytoplasm divides. So mitosis is just the nucleus dividing. Cytokinesis is the splitting or dividing of the cytoplasm. This is when you actually get 2 completely identical daughter cells.